tonight, knowing your recent arrival just a few nights ago from Greece and knowing how difficult it is on that recovery time. Thank you for joining us tonight. Um, and please feel free to leave us when you need to this evening. But again, we thank you for joining us here in the beginning of the.
It is my honor and my pleasure to be with you. And I'm not sure how do you begin, but let us pray for a moment. Lord our God, source of wisdom and fountain of all blessings, we gather this evening with grateful hearts for the gift of your church and for the opportunity to serve you within it. Look for the favor upon all those present, clergy and faithful alike, who have dedicated themselves to the work of your holy vineyard. Bless their efforts, inspire their leadership, and guide their hearts with compassion and humility. Grant us unity of purpose, clarity of vision, and the grace to discern what is pleasing in your sight. May our discussions tonight be fruitful, our hearts open, and our minds illumined by your truth. Strengthen our parishes, O Lord, through faith, love, and steadfast service, so that in all things your holy name may be glorified, for you are holy now and forever and to the ages of ages. Amen. Many greetings to all of you this evening. Thank you for taking the time to be again as a gathering, as we have done all this time, for this Orthodox Parish Leadership Ministry. I extend my gratitude to each of you for your commitment to your parish communities and for your willingness to grow in leadership, in the service and faith. As my dear friend Steve will very soon present today's presentation on nurturing a healthy parish, 12 core attributes, touches the very heart of what it means to be an active and a vibrant Orthodox community. Our parishes are more than institutions. They are more than just buildings. They are living expressions of the body of Christ. The strength of a parish is not measured solely on the numbers or finances, but on the spiritual vitality, its hospitality, its stewardship, its transparency, and the Christ-centered relationships cultivated among its people. I know that the presentation to be offered by Steve Pappas, faithful steward and distinguished leader, will be a tremendous benefit to you and your communities, and I encourage you to take this information and implement it for the ongoing development and the health of thriving Paris. It is time for us to make sure that we reflect the true nature of our church. And as such, we're welcoming our presenter today, and we're ready to listen to him and to the wisdom that they have to offer, both him and Steve Pappas. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Eminence. And we'd be remiss to also not congratulate you on your 20th anniversary a couple months ago. I don't think we've, these the webinars that we've had. So, Ispola eti despota.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right. And Your Eminence, you didn't miss anything. We were just doing the early introduction, so we will begin. I will cover the topics we want to cover, and I will ask for everyone's forgiveness because we're going to go quickly. I'm going to go quickly, but this presentation will be shared with everyone afterwards. We really do want to have this as a beginning of the dialogue and discussion. In some ways, almost the thing that starts if some of your parishes haven't kind of gone down this path to really look inwardly and outwardly on parish health and your parish's health. So um, I'm gonna go through the core attributes relatively quick, but the materials again will be there. Um, but I also want to leave time for our guest speakers, which I'm about to introduce. But tonight we'll talk about what is a healthy parish, what are those 12 core attributes that we've been using, and please view this as nothing more than a framework for you to take into your own parish and tailor it. And then what are the practical steps coming out of this that you can take? And then also provide some resources and links and other information. So, again, tonight is really about beginning the dialogue or continuing the dialogue for the parishes that we've had the chance to work with or have started down this journey. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome as our guest speakers this evening, Katie Adams from St. Lawrence and Felton, California, and then Christina Reynolds from St. Demetrius in Concord. And Katie and Christina are both 2x2 program alums. And if you don't know what the 2x2 program is, we'll cover that a bit. But in our second year running, the Orthodox Parish Leadership Team has invited 12 parishes across the metropolis in each year in 2024, and now we're in the midst of 2025. And the 2x2 has two lay leaders from each of those respective parishes, and of course, at the guidance of the clergy, the proistamenos of that parish. And we go through all the aspects of Orthodox parish leadership that we have to cover. So it's a very, it's an not intense, but it's a program for once a month coming together and sharing amongst 12 parishes. But Katie, as you can see, when I asked Katie and Christina, what were the roles and things you have done within your parish? You can see here just a tremendous amount, right? Katie being a past president, a past vice president, board member on the school at St. Lawrence, strategic planning committee, and many, many other committees that she leads within St. Lawrence. And then she'll talk a little bit about her parish too. Really, when I do call on Katie and Christina. So, Katie and Christina, definitely give some color as to your parish so that the participants here tonight can understand the particular characteristics of your parish. And then Christina, current parish council treasurer. We often talk about that role in all of our parishes, if not the most challenging, certainly one of the most demanding. Sunday school director, dance instructor, the ushering team, Philoptochos, just has done everything and touches. So, two great guest speakers that I've invited to really provide some color to what I will be discussing along the 12 core attributes. All right. So, what is a healthy parish? Clearly there's this virtuous cycle that occurs when a parish is strong and healthy, and then the parishioners also have the sense of belonging, strengthening their faith, increasing the fellowship. And it really is just a wonderful virtuous circle. And I think we've all, had certain experiences where we've been in the midst of that, and it's been just a blessing and beautiful. Sometimes we parishes, run into some challenges and makes it a little bit more difficult. So tonight we want to go through and really talk about what are those various aspects. But how else would we characterize a healthy parish or a flourishing parish? And we could use the analogy or the metaphor of the garden, right? And the soil could be really our faith, our Orthodox faith and traditions, the fertile ground in which we can plant the seeds of all of us as individuals that come up in a variety of different plants. There's diversity in all of our parishes. We're not homogeneous as maybe we were 50 or 100 years ago. So we're understanding the variety and diversity within our parishes. And then, of course, the gardeners, first and foremost, Christ, the Holy Spirit, and of course our clergy to also be able to guide us. So if it's a visual that helps, that inspires, a little bit more practically, we look at when we think of a flourishing parish, we think of a growing parish. We think of one where it involves all age groups, um, our youth, our young, our old, our middle age, everyone, and from all different backgrounds. It really creates this supportive environment, not only as we'll talk about inside the parish, but how the parish emanates across the community and outside of the parish. We have to view our parishes really, it is a manifestation of Christ here on earth. And each parish is really the fulfillment of the whole church. And it isn't, our Orthodox faith, these are not branches, these are not subsets, but each parish represents the full breadth of our church. And it is for us to do the work that Christ has asked us to do and what we need to do for our own, again, personal growth, salvation. We use this framework as to, we have many people tonight. It's wonderful to see the attendance tonight. I'm sure there's a whole spectrum of where parishes that are represented here tonight may sit. Um, and, sometimes I know I look at this or others can look at it and say, where are we at? And when a parish is new and is growing or it's in that kind of growth spurt, everything just sort of hums, right? And you almost can't keep up. But then you come hit a maturity point. Every parish at some point kind of hits this maturity point. And what you really want to do is keep that vibrancy, that vitality going so that it doesn't start to slip and certainly doesn't begin to decline. Um, and we definitely, today, fortunately, as our churches are growing and bringing in, new members to our faith, I think we're seeing this resurgence, which is just, beautiful to see across many of our parishes. But you can look at this and kind of ask yourself, where are we as in your particular parish at? Um, and as his eminence said, it isn't simply about beautiful iconography and the beautiful traditions we have, but it really is both individual spiritual growth, it's community, strong community fellowship and bonds, and of course, ministry and ministry to others, and the attributes will touch it. Um, this is kind of a quick view of the 12 attributes, but I'm gonna put it into a little bit of a different framework here in a minute. But what I wanted to do with this particular slide is talk about that 2x2 program I had mentioned that we've been running within the metropolis of San Francisco. Um, and again, we've had the 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 the, the the pleasure and treasure of having 12 parishes last year in 2024. We have 12 parishes this year participating. And we do run assessments and we ask those members from those parishes to go back out into their parishes and ask other parishioners their perspective, their view on certain topics. And this is the survey that we did after we presented parish health and the parish why, but the parish health, and asked individuals to just score it yes, somewhat, or no. That's all individuals need to do. Later on in the presentation, and when you do have you have the presentation available to you, there is a link, and this parish survey is always up live and available. You can take it yourself. You can have your parishioners take it, and then work with me, with Steve Tibbs. We'll get you any type of reporting that might be available that you may like. But what was interesting here is we had, across the 2 years, we've had 384 participants across the 24 parishes, and really just kind of give us a sense of, you know, where are the areas of stronger health? Where are the areas maybe need a little more attention within parishes? And based on at least the surveying to date, we found is, where we had strong and very good attributes of those 12 attributes was that the parish is loving, that the parish centers itself around a cycle of worship and spiritual growth, and is welcoming and friendly to visitors. Three incredibly important attributes for any parish. Improvement attributes, the ones that maybe didn't get the time, just didn't get, as much attention as maybe we would like. Has a clear vision and mission, empowers parishioners to affect change as decision making and power is shared. and then continually developing great leaders. If you were with us a couple months ago, I presented on leadership development and succession planning, and we did that and we moved that up into the calendar year for the webinars because we did see, in fact, these last two, um, the idea of sharing the leadership responsibilities, the continuing developing great leaders. And I see many that are here on the webinar that I know have been carrying the big load for many, many years within their parishes. And we're grateful for you, but for all of us that have held those roles and done those, how do we continue to spread that responsibility onto others? So that was the results. The 12 attributes. What I did for tonight's presentation was it's just a list because it's a very digestible list with 12. But as I looked at it really across three dimensions. One around spiritual vitality. And you'll see that both with number one and then the foundational down below is loving. So centers itself around a cycle of worship and spiritual growth and then is loving. And thank God that the surveys we did, that those two, ended up being some of the strongest things in our parishes today. So very foundational, very important. Um, but then the other ones kind of fall into two categories: is communal strength, as a community, what are we doing, and then operational effectiveness. Um, each of the three very interdependent, and it's important that there's not over-indexing on one or the other. And if we have to over-index on anything, spiritual vitality would be it. But the interconnectedness of making it all work. And fear not, we're not saying that every parish, right, has to excel in each of these areas. Right? There's probably some out there that do. The vast majority of ours won't. But how do we create that roadmap or plan to begin, go down that journey where we're able to tackle one or two attributes a year that we want to focus on without, with making sure that we don't let go of the things that the parish is doing well. So it's really to look at how do we continue the focus and the improvement on the overall health of the parish. So, I think time-wise, I'm trying to gauge time. I think we're doing okay. So I'm going to dive into the 12 attributes, and I'm going to show you kind of the structure of the 12. And please know, again, these slides will be made available. But we'll dive into, not deep, but we'll dive into each of the 12 attributes. And what I've shared below is a reflection. So as you listen to me and Christina and Katie tonight, as you go through each of these attributes, I know as I was putting together the deck, I even thought about my own parish, right? And how is your parish? Where does your parish sit along these 12 attributes? So the first one, as we said, probably the most important, around centering yourself around the cycle of worship and spiritual growth. Um, the divine liturgy for us, in all of our services, but the divine liturgy in particular, really is that foundation within our parishes. And in addition to that, the spiritual growth that comes from prayer and fasting and scripture reading and confession, and partaking the other sacraments besides confession and communion, um, but making that a part of our lives, not just on Sundays, but throughout every day of our weeks, of our months, of our years. Um, this is often referred to as the spiritual oxygen of the parish. And without it, everything is, we're sort of running a business without this, right? So why it's so important. We're just running a, an organization, right? An LLC, or we're running a nonprofit entity. We're not running Christ on earth. We're not running, the church as it was given to us. So, very important. Um, So another one is we get into the communal strength areas, implementing programs that serve others outside the parish. There's some fantastic examples across our metropolis, across our archdiocese of the outreach. It's wonderful to see as the years go on that there's more and more of this happening. But how do we go beyond the four walls of our own parishes? This embodies Christ's commandment, right? To love our neighbors, to really be that powerful witness outside of our parish. It is also what attracts others and brings in new members to our parishes. So whether it's food drives, it's feeding the homeless, or just the outreach of the homeless, supporting other local charities, which our Philoptochos does such an exceptional job at. Disaster relief efforts, of course, whether it's California, Texas, Florida, wherever it may be. Unfortunately, every year we know that there are others um, in other parishes, but in other communities that need our help. And of course, interfaith community initiatives, as we've just seen the Archbishop go to Rome, but even beyond the interfaith Christian activities, how do we reach out to our neighbors beyond our own communities? So again, I kind of will not point out all of them, but reflection, how well does your parish identify and address the needs of your local community? Extending your service beyond your own parishioners and your own parishes. Next is embracing diversity, building bridges with people of different backgrounds. Um, what a tremendous blessing to see over the last, in particular, I'd say 10 years, 15 years, so many new to the faith, um, and making sure we um, are embracing, are integrating, are joining together with our fellow parishioners, whether cradle Orthodox, whether have been in the Orthodox faith for a long time, or just new and just finding the faith, but really being able to embrace that diversity. Um, that we need to, again, be inclusive across all those dimensions, not all the dimensions within our parishes. For some parishes, it's a little bit, it's out of the comfort zone. For others, especially with the lead of the Proistamenos and other lay leaders, are just doing an incredible job with really growing our parishes. There were years I can recall 5, 10 years ago, how much we had worried about the decline in the populations of our parishes. I often remember, Bill Marianis and the statistics, and absolutely frightening, whether you looked at funerals or you looked at baptisms or you looked at, some of the others. And here we are suddenly across the country and in so many of our parishes, seeing of influx of people that have discovered um, what many of us were we're again blessed to have as part of our growing up, which is to be an Orthodox Christian in this beautiful faith. So it's welcoming and friendly to visitors. And of course, for all of you that have been on some of these, you see Mr. George Akizian, who's I believe he is on tonight. One of my fellow Orthodox parish leadership leads, and George leads the welcoming committees at St. Paul and Irvine. Um, Boy, how can you make that, and stay tuned, for, or go back to get the replays of George talking about the fantastic job that they do at St. Paul's in Irvine of making people feel comfortable. Um, you know, First impressions matter, absolutely. Um, the philoxenia, or the hospitality that Greeks and other ethnicities are known for, often Orthodox ethnicities, making people feel at home. In our parishes, our church is our home. And, just as we would welcome people into our homes, to welcome them into the faith, and, to really make them feel comfortable as they explore and get to learn about the Orthodox faith. So this will be my first juncture where And Christina, I didn't give you a really big heads up, but I knew that hopefully you're set. I'm going to take the slides down because Christina is going to share some of the experiences at St. Demetrius in Concord for both embracing diversity as well as welcoming and being friendly to visitors and those exploring the faith. So with that, Christina, hopefully we've got you.
I'm here.
Excellent. All right.
Okay. Your Eminence, Reverend Fathers, Steve and Paul, and all of my brothers and sisters in Christ. Thank you so very much for inviting me tonight, and our church basically are inviting St. Demetrius. Um, I was asked to speak on a few different attributes, and so I'll start with just the welcoming and friendly to visitors and how St. Demetrius um, uses their wonderful ushering, welcoming committee to be able to welcome all people, all diverse backgrounds, all ages, all nationalities, and actually a lot of people from different faiths who are searching and recognizing that Orthodoxy is something that they are being drawn towards. So it's been an incredible journey for us. We are so thankful to have Father Michael State as our spiritual leader and our parish priest. He's been there for about 6 years, and we have just seen tremendous growth. Our average Sunday used to be like 60 people, and we've over doubled that now. Even in the summer times, we are seeing 100 to 125 people on an average Sunday. And so for our parish, that's huge. Um, so glory to God, that's what I say. He is working, and we are continuing to reap the fruit from what he is giving us. Um, just to let you know a little bit about our ushering ministry. On a typical Sunday, we normally have about 4 ushers, and we call them greeters. More importantly than just ushers, they're greeters. And many times now, there is not a Sunday that goes by that we are not welcoming 2, 3, 4, 5 people, sometimes that many families that are new to our parish. And so we've all been strategically trained, I'll say. We've had conversations on how we want to welcome people, on some of the questions that you may ask somebody just to spark a conversation. Um, Even if you don't think they're a new person, it's okay to ask. Many times, it's just that simple question. So we normally love to welcome them. We give them a little bit of background about the narthex and welcoming them in from the world and the transition into God's house. And so we talk about the narthex, and we talk about the icons and veneration and the candles and just simple things. And you can do it all in a matter of 30 seconds to a minute, um, so that it's not taking up a lot of their time. We also have parishioners inside the church that are, I guess you can say, placed for us to be able to sit them with, so that they are with somebody who's familiar with the liturgy, who's able to help them follow along in our Divine Liturgy book. And so that's been a huge help for many. We have welcome cards that we encourage them to fill out, and we follow up within the next week. Either father is following up or one of the ushering greeters are following up. And then we also have done something which has worked really nice, is we have little like I don't personal contact business cards kind of thing, where we can put our information in case they have any questions, and you follow up with them. A lot of times when they're new, they have so many questions. And so I know those have been a big help in our church. But we've just been very blessed. We've seen so many of those people who have become catechumens, and at this point have now become Orthodox. So that's kind of where our parish has really like thrived. And I think that's another reason why we are also seeing the increase in the number of people attending our parish on Sundays. And so that's really kind of the basic framework for us. Does anybody have any questions or would love to entertain any more ideas too?
I think as Christina said, we do, and I did put that in the chat. We want to make this we are going to present, but I'm hoping that within, at least 30 minutes, we'll be finished with some of the content. But, please either put any questions in the chat or we'll take breaks and you can come off of mute and ask particular questions. We're gonna have Christina come back to share another St. Demetrius experience. So you got to keep up the great work, Christina. It really is a fantastic story with Father State, with the lay leadership, what's happening at St. Demetrius, and I know it's happening at many, many other parishes. All right, I'm going to do a quick because we got Katie on deck. So let's see. Uh-oh, if I didn't lose my Zoom, let me go back to sharing. So Katie, I know you're with us, and I'm going to cover one of the next attribute, and then we'll go to Katie. So the next attribute was recognizing the essential task of caring for one another. So again, all within the communal strength area, as Christina talked about, and Katie's going to share some experience there at St. Lawrence. And Katie, if you can also kind of describe and share with everyone, for those that may not be as familiar with St. Lawrence and Felton, again, the characteristics, what makes your particular community, your parish special. But it's really being able, again, to care for one another within our parish life, within our human life. We get to share the greatest joys, the greatest sorrows, the difficulties that we as humans have to undertake throughout our lives, but to do that, to share it, to know that you've got a supportive parish, to know that people care about you, that love one another, that are willing to visit, to help, to feed, to pray, to welcome, to do things that assist us. And again, in those difficult times, and then for all of us to share the beautiful and wonderful times of our humanity together and have others to share it with. So Katie, if I can ask you to talk about how at St. Lawrence, the tightness and the community that you have and how you care for each other.
Your Eminence, and Stephen, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's really an honor. When I think about what defines the culture at St. Lawrence, caring for one another is definitely in the center circle. And I believe for St. Lawrence, there's a couple of reasons why. First, the majority of our parishioners live within about a 10-mile radius of the church, which may or may not be that common. But we are a true community, not just in spirit, but in proximity. And that close proximity has forged long friendships for many of us. A lot of us have known each other for over 40 years. Second, our parish has been through some hard times together. And third, I think going through those hard times together has created an even deeper bond with a high level of trust among us. We don't just see each other on Sundays. We live our lives out together throughout the week. And this shared life means that care happens on more than just an organized level. We do have formal ministries that provide care, but often people just show up. They check in, they carry one another's burdens. We have supported each other through big things like the CZU fire that threatened almost every member's home, and it also came very close to taking the church building itself. And small things like noticing a new mother who needed a break and stepping in to help. And one example that comes to mind is there was a family in our parish who had already lost several loved ones the year before, and tragically, they lost another one. And word quickly spread. Even people on vacation were calling, asking how they could help. Friends showed up at the hospital offering comfort and care. Mercy meal menus were already being planned, and the phone tree was lit up. No one wanted this family to have to carry the logistical burdens that come with a funeral when they've already suffered so much. And the interesting thing is, all of this happened before the church ministries were able to act. There were countless behind the scenes efforts that week, but the bottom line was we just made sure that this family was cared for. It wasn't organized, it was an instinct, it was love in action, and that's really who our parish is. And while living in close proximity as a tight community was, and while living in a close proximity as a tight community was intentional, if I'm being honest, the closeness didn't grow from a perfectly crafted ministry plan. It was formed through years of shared life and shared suffering, and in many ways, it's what makes it so powerful. Um, this this closeness also brings its challenges. The longevity and tight bonds among longtime parishioners can at times be intimidating for new members coming into the church. So part of maintaining a healthy parish means looking for ways to grow stronger, not just in depth, but in welcome. And now our task is to just be intentional about making sure everyone feels that they're a part of this caring community. Not everyone comes with a 40-year history here, but all are welcome, and we really want them to be a part of the next 40 years. It's a work in progress, but it's one that we're really committed to. So thank you for letting me share a little bit, Stephen. I appreciate it.
We thank you, Katie. And we'll have Katie and Christina come back on a couple of these other attributes. So continuing down, and we have one final communal attribute, the fifth of those five on the communal side. So let me bring this back up. So our next one is number 6. Let's see if we can advance it. Sees the good in people and assumes the best in others. When many of us have heard stories, or there have been parishes that may have had some difficulties or have had to overcome some challenges, but in the spirit of in a Christ-centered spirit, and again, always keeping Christ in the center of everything, seeing the good in individuals, not being critical, having those positive relationships, knowing why we're all there. Why are we all there at that parish? When there is conflict, let's resolve the conflict. Let's have good, transparent, productive conversations and discussions. Take that spirit of forgiveness. It's really making sure that we maintain the unity that's needed to keep our parishes strong. When that doesn't happen, it starts to break apart. Even those small cracks suddenly become larger fissures, and they can really set a parish back. So again, really seeing the good in people, often asking ourselves, how would Christ approach a particular situation? Showing grace, showing patience, showing understanding. So as we looked and we looked at the communal strength, we discussed that sense within the parish itself, reaching outside of the parish, and helping others, and really again creating and fostering a sense of the mission that we have here within our parish, and really as an extension again of our faith. So we're going to take a pivot and we're going to move into the operational effectiveness side. Things that are also important, because there are just certain operational things we should be doing, and that make sure that that allows us to do the communal activities that we want to do. And again, all being done in a Christ-centered way. And some of these certainly underlie that too. So this first one under operational effectiveness, being trustworthy. We need that transparency. We need the integrity, the honesty in our dealings with one another. We need it within the financial aspects of running our parishes, the pastoral aspects. And really, again, having those open lines of communication, letting everyone understand, what is needed. And oftentimes, again, we're blessed because we have people of many talents within our parishes. Um, and being able, when we talk about true Christian stewardship, to bring our time, to bring our talents, to bring our treasure, to help. So some of us are maybe can provide our talents in an operational way, though we get to participate and benefit from the communal activities. And certainly, we all get to share in the vitality of our faith and the spirit and the spiritual vitality itself. So, clear again, transparency around financial reporting. We'll touch a little bit more on financial management here as one of the five within the operational effectiveness. So the next one has a clear vision and mission. And I was thinking about this slide, though it's a little bit later in here, that even early on, especially as we talk about operational effectiveness. And I know we have Steve Tibbs and we have Bill Marianis on and Father Jim Corderis from the Archdiocese. I think Demi is on too, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Demi couldn't make it tonight, but um, we often on these webinars also talk about the why, the vision, the mission, and really foundational. A parish needs to articulate what is that longer term aspirational vision? Where is it that we want to be going to? And on top of that, then what is the mission? What is our purpose? What's our objective as we, look to aspire to achieve this vision? And then strategy, lay out that strategic plan that we often talk about for let's say, a 3-year strategic plan. What are the things that we want to prioritize, especially those bigger things within a parish that really do take a lot of time and effort? But how do we also have an annual plan? And what we're talking about tonight, from a parish health and healthy parishes standpoint, is really intended very much in that annual plan, or a plan that really looks out 12 months, maybe 18 months, depending when we're starting and doing the planning. But being able to say, based on our vision and our mission as a parish and the strategic plan that hopefully we've put into place, what do we need to do right now? So it really is, you know, being able to do that ideally. And I know not every parish, either has the time. You can always start with the plan just to get going, because as we said, across these 12 attributes, when we get to, okay, now what do we do? Even if you focus on one or two for the year, you can get started. But we certainly encourage you to build the rest of that foundational pyramid here, so that you have your parish why, that the things you put in your plan, in fact, align with the vision, mission, and strategy of the parish itself. So our next operational, we're doing pretty well on time, but I will have to get through the remaining few ones here to bring Christina and Katie back. Um, empowers parishioners to affect change in decision making, and the power is shared. And if you recall, I said this is one of the areas in the survey, the parish health survey, that um, when it said it doesn't get the attention necessarily, and this is an effort. A parish has to have so much of the other attributes just humming along, but being able to, we talk about welcoming to the faith, but also as we welcome, what talents can these individuals bring that we can distribute the work, the activities, all the things that a parish needs to happen. Um, and it really allows us to, make sure again that people do feel a part of it. And I won't go, if you go back a couple months, or the April webinar that we did, I went into much greater detail in this area, as well as the next one, which is continually developing great leaders and leadership development in our parishes, succession planning, absolutely vital, especially one now as we have so many new parishioners in our parishes. And And those of us that have been doing things for a long time are getting a little old and a little slower, and we need to empower and mentor and bring that next generation of leaders within our parishes. The more we can do to spread the responsibilities, the activities, the easier it is on all of us to be able to contribute to the fullest, to avoid the burnout that can take place. Um, and again, also make sure that our parish is reflecting the the needs of what is really becoming much more diverse parishes within our metropolis. Let's see. And this one, let's see, we got Katie. I think we've got you on continuing developing great leaders, and I think you were going to share some of the things at St. Lawrence on developing great leaders. So I will stop sharing.
Okay, this is probably more of a cautionary tale, and sometimes you can't see the picture. You can't see the picture when you're in the picture. This is an area where we've struggled, but we're also beginning to grow. And we've had to take a hard look at ourselves. And I'm sharing this as openly and honestly as I can in hopes that this experience will be helpful to others that are listening. Leadership at St. Lawrence historically was largely shaped by the priest's direction. While the parish council was very active and engaged, the culture leaned towards working with the priest's timing and direction. At the time, it felt like this was really healthy. It felt collaborative, it felt aligned, but there were limits that we didn't fully see yet. And on paper, we had a cohesive plan, but in practice, the parts that aligned with our priest priorities moved forward while many of the other efforts quietly stalled. The full plan really never came to fruition. And one of the areas that never emerged was an intentional effort to grow new leaders. So while leaders did emerge, it was through structured or intentional process. It was often driven by individuals rather than a shared culture of leadership and development. And as a result, we didn't have enough leaders to carry our plans forward. Important projects move forward with love and persistence, but without a broader system to support it. Much depended on the personality over the process. When Father Seraphim arrived, that kind of began to have a shift. He began investing in leadership development and helping us to think and work a little bit differently. And honestly, the 2x2 program had given us the tools and the language we didn't even know we needed. With the support from the Archdiocese, we know we're not alone, and the OPL team has done a fantastic job of putting this toolkit together. It's really the best. If you get a chance to go on the website and look at some of the things they have there, it's really impressive. But now we're starting to build a culture where leadership is shared, intentional, and sustainable. This process is taking time, but it's thoughtful and it's healthy. And a healthy parish isn't just one with plans, it's one with people equipped to carry those plans out together with an organized structure that can sustain them. Change starts by being honest about the past, willing to take a clear look at where you are now, and committing to grow something better with intention and humility and love. So that's kind of our story there, but thank you for giving me the space to share it.
Thank you, Katie, for sharing it, and yes, and thank you to Father Seraphim too, that also wanted you to share the story, and again, from what may be that struggle or challenge comes, wonderful things is happening right now at St. Lawrence. And again, developing leaders. You can't help but think, yes, it takes a village, it takes a parish to get all the things done that we would like to do. We see those 12 attributes. There's a lot of work to do, and it isn't 3 people doing it or half a dozen people doing it. So welcoming and bringing others in, bringing their talents, that's what creates that flourishing parish, that flourishing garden. All right, and we're going to touch on one more of the operational effectiveness ones, which is the financial side. And then Christina is going to tell us as the current treasurer at St. Demetrius, but share a little bit about financial responsibility. And you know, we have Jim Eckert on the Orthodox Parish leadership team, just a fantastic resource, a member of our Metropolis Finance Council, an area where, again, very operational, but one that when done well is something, one that we don't have to dwell on, and more importantly, doesn't create unnecessary problems or issues for a community. So the transparency, you know, being able to, not only from an integrity standpoint and communication and transparency, but to also inspire all of us, provide our stewardship, provide our generosity, and we want to make sure that the funds are being properly stewarded, that the funds are being properly used for the things that are most important to the parish. Again, back to that parish why and vision and mission and strategy and plan. So the financial transparency, the financial responsibility here is very important. So whether that's, you know, clear financial reports, and I urge you to, when Jim either has his webinar or go look at past webinars, and so that I don't forget, you know, Katie mentioned the OPL or the Orthodox Parish Leadership materials. I don't know if I have the website. There are some appendix slides with resources. I'll make sure before we distribute the slides, we have the link to the website. It is definitely a work in progress. We'll continue to enrich it. We have some other sites there too, but again, we'll talk about resources here before we close tonight. So Christina, can you share a little bit about the financial responsibility that the parish, and speaking firsthand as, again, St. Demetrius's current treasurer?
Thanks again, Steve, for sure. Our biggest, I guess, financial responsibility that we have changed within our parish is our stewardship model in our church. And over the last, again, 6 years, so this kind of has all changed since we got our new parish priest 6 years ago. We changed our stewardship model to make it more of we take a month out of the year, normally in November, and that is what we call Stewardship Month. And we do a lot of education during that month. We have guest speakers that we invite from parishioners who are stewards. And then Father's sermons each of those weeks are also on stewardship and tithing. The biggest piece for us has been education, 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 and what it is to be a godly tither, what that means through what the Bible says and what God says. And with the help of many webinars, I sat in with Bill Marianis during COVID, and so many financial treasurer meetings that I've sat in on, and have been just blessed with the information that has been available and the resources, again, through OPL, through being on the 2x2, through talking to other parishes and what they've done. And the glory and benefit of all of this has been is that our church has become a member-supported church. We no longer have a festival that we have to rely on, or fundraisers. We continue to educate. We have taken away things like charging for candles, even at Easter. Those are, you know, a gift of the parish, however you would like to say. We don't put out any type of like an Easter donation list or a Christmas donation list or anything like that. There's no baskets that get passed. There's no baskets at coffee hour. All of our Sunday, when we have any kind of special events, luncheons and things, they are actually in our budget. And so parishioners don't pay for that. We were seeing a lot of times that when we were paying, a family of 4 or 5 at $15 a head, they didn't come. And so they missed out. And so we started to also look at our budget, our annual budget, and we just started adding all of those things to our budget. We added coffee hour to our budget. We added all of our ministries. So our ministries are not even doing fundraisers anymore. So the ministries are funded through the budget. And that's a lot of where we have headed. And then one of the other things that we've done is we've added, to be an example, our budget includes a 10% outreach and inreach that we do with the stewardship that the parishioners tithe. And so we are also giving back, even though Philoptohos is very much, doing their work. As a whole, as a church, we are also giving back that 10% of tithing to be that example. It is a constant education of our stewardship committee. And when people ask questions, it's also changing habits. That's a big one. When we are now getting a lot of converts and things like that, they're coming with that education already in place. So it's making it easier. The Protestants, Mormons, I mean, there's a lot of different structure there for them, but we've just been very blessed and experienced, and we challenge people too. We tell them every year, we give them a little challenge. Hey, just up your stewardship by 1%. And so those are some of the things that we've done, and we've also expanded our investments for our church and educated people on investments, and planned giving is the newest thing that we're working on. Qualified distributions that people can give, endowment fund, those kinds of things. So we're working on that, estate giving, and really getting people educated to, you know, leaving their estate and what does that look like, and people who are 70 and a half that can give their charitable contribution from their funds, and not, when someone says, oh, I don't have the monthly income, well, you can go into your savings kind of thing, and you educate them on what that looks like versus giving from your, maybe your social security or something like that. And so we've just continued to educate. I think that's been our biggest gift that we've been able to do for our parishioners, and we just keep continuing to do that.
That's fantastic, Christina. And I can, the seeds that Mr. Marianis has planted in this metropolis over the last 15 years are certainly starting to germinate. I know Christina Mayhouse did a 2x2 webinar a few weeks ago on generosity. And I really came away with what you said is, please, those new to the faith, come and teach us. Don't go native. Don't pick up our bad habits. Please teach us how to give, and to give sacrificially. So the things happening in St. Demetrius is beautiful, and I know it's happening at more and more parishes. And Bill, thank you for those seeds, again, planted many, many years ago. You should take great pride in seeing how they're starting to come. As the past stewardship ministry lead in the metropolis, and now Christina Mayhouse, who's on to now Christina, picking up and really, even increasing our view to generosity. And again, another key area within the Orthodox parish leadership team, with Christina, they're really teaching us about the generosity and stewardship. So just to close on the 12 attributes, I think we've got about 15 minutes, give or take. And I think I did see His Eminence still on, and I want to make sure we get His Eminence to rest as soon as possible. So just to close out, and not to go fast, but absolutely foundational is loving. Everything we've talked about here, right? We said to be Christ-centered, to really, again, that highest order of love, of agape, that we show each other, that we show outside of our parishes. It is what Christ has commanded us to do, that again will lead us, as I said in the beginning, to our own personal salvation and the salvation of those around us, our friends, our family members. So this really is the sum of all the attributes. And we purposely put it there as the foundational element, because without this, many of the others just, again, become superficial activities we can do. If we don't have agape, then we really don't have the church that Christ wants us, the parish that Christ wants us to have. So, what do we do? And just to give everyone kind of some practical steps, and we'll look to close this out and kind of open it up for discussion. So there's a lot in the chat. I haven't been able to keep up to see if there's particular questions or things we want to address, or if others want to ask any questions here on the group, because we had a really, great and large group. So I thank you all for staying on. So, what do we do? How do we go from assessment to reflection to action? So what can you do as leaders within your own parish, or to take back, from this webinar and take it back to your parish leadership, to really have this opportunity to take a look at your parish and to decide what are the things that we can at least get started on. So the assessment with the 12 attributes, and there's, last I checked, off of Mount Sinai, the 12 attributes didn't come off of Mount Sinai. So, but, it's a framework. It's something that, many have, and Steve Tibbs over the years has kind of put together with all the work that he's done with parishes. So take it as a starting point and make it your own, within your own parish, and reflect on each of the attributes, you know, identify what are we doing well, what are the things we should be doing better, and have that, develop that vitalization plan, that plan that says what are we going to do for the next 9 to 18 months within our parish, and just to be able to strengthen any one of those attributes depending on what a priority is for your particular parish. So again, a tool that you can take back in a practical way back to your own parish and use this. If you need our help doing it, reach out to me, reach out to Steve, reach out to any of the OPL team members. But particularly, you can reach out to me, can help guide you through it, whether we do it virtually, whether we do it in person, but really being able to kind of really assess where take a really honest and transparent look to where the parish is, and then be able to again action it from there. You'll Hopefully I'll make sure within the PDF that there's a link at the bottom here, where if you click on it, you'll actually go to an assessment itself. I don't think you can see that, but it'll take you right into the assessment that within just a few minutes, especially if everyone has the grounding of what the 12 attributes mean. You can take it, you can have 10 of your parishioners, you can have 100 of your parishioners take the assessment and really look at, where does everyone else see it? Because we all kind of view things from our own lens. How does a wider scale in the community look at each attributes? And you can use a scale of 1 to 5, from weak all the way up to very strong is 5. And we can help you, but use a gradient that helps you surface the areas of strength and the areas that can be worked on. In some cases, working on a revitalization plan or just a vitalization, just kind of upping and improving the health of a parish. And again, this could be for 12 or 18 months, a window as you look at the plan and the activities, and really kind of guide a parish. And I know, Steve Tibbs has worked with, numerous parishes, and really being able to put a plan together, help a parish put a plan together that they can go back and make and ask, whether it's quarterly or however often they go back to see how are we doing on this plan. So in kind of closing here, and before we open it up to Q&A, this is all of our personal and collective journey to theosis. How do we make our parishes this living manifestation of Christ? And we encourage you to start small, be consistent. You heard from Christina and from Katie. These are journeys. These are multi-year journeys, but they were set with a direction. They were set with priorities that allowed to keep the parish focused on certain areas, and really have the impact that lay leaders and the clergy and the proistomenos would want their parish to take. It does need to be, again, a partnership with the clergy and lay leadership, and it has to make sure that it involves or engages or listens to a very wide population of the parishioners. This isn't something that half a dozen people, lock themselves up in a room and decide what's best for the parish. Please listen to your parish, parishes that are growing, parishes that are becoming more diverse. And above all, pray throughout the process. Nothing ever comes easy. So continue the prayers as you go through, and keep Christ in the center of all of our actions. We're going to open it up for some Q&A, but I just want to showcase real quick what you'll find in the back here. Just a few slides of resources. There's some links to other related websites. You'll see Orthodox Parish Leadership, Orthodox Ministry Services, Smart Church Management. There's many, many more, but this is a good starting point. And then just some sort of representative sample of books that we particularly like. Father Evan, continues to, God bless him, continue to author and write. So we got Father Evan and all the other books here. And then finally, the actual OPL leader, the OPL team is here to serve. And we touch on many, many of the areas. I think probably all of the areas, actually, as I look back at everyone here. So the parish health one is the all-encompassing. If we need to go deeper, this is sort of the team, and I can bring in Peter, I can bring in George, I can bring in Christina, to help guide, to go beyond once we've assessed and really looked at and develop what that plan is. How do you actually go about taking those actions within each of those particular attributes? So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to open it up, if we can, maybe 5 minutes of some Q&A. I know there's a lot of questions in the chat. Hopefully many have been answered kind of asynchronously, but I would ask anyone you could raise your electronic digital hand, or you can come off of mute and ask a question. Any questions? Steve Tibbs, I know that you're off camera, and I know you're recuperating, but don't know if you wanted to add anything here to the group.
Yeah, I was able to come off rest time. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for Christina and Katie for sharing your beautiful stories. And I've had an opportunity to spend some time at those two parishes, and think of those as something we aspire to. I mean, think about what Christina said, is that they're not passing the tray. They're not, asking for candles. They're not keeping, young families away from fellowship because they can't afford it. And what a beautiful model to aspire to. I mean, we all talk about that, but they're actually doing it. And that's tremendous. And Katie, I think, underscored the trials and tribulations of their parish. It's kind of well documented in case you ever want to go take a look at it. But the fact is that their perseverance and under the guidance of their priest really has created a beautiful environment. And sometimes, adversity builds strength. But you talk about a parish that cares for one another and recognizes the need for developing leaders. I mean, those are beautiful stories. So thank you. And yes, from the seeds that were sown from Bill many years ago, we're still seeing fruit out of those, and it's very well and appropriate that that be recognized. And Katie, as far as your OPL message on how good 2x2 is, I think we agreed on $20 if you said that. I'm gonna up it to 50 just because it sounded so good. But again, thank you both. And Steve, thank you for the presentation. These 12 attributes have really been curated over a number of decades, really. And so both from not just an intellectual experience or a review of publications, but actually seeing them work in parishes. So hopefully you'll have a chance to do that. I know now when you go to the website for OPL, I just want to caution you, it is way under development. So we're going to be developing that this year. But if you look at the 2x2 program or whatever, there are some materials there. Also encourage you to go to the Metropolis website. There's a lot of great materials there, which that's where this will end up. But there's some really good questions here, and I don't want to take time away from that. Very specific questions. So again, thank you, Your Eminence, for allowing us to come together and providing your spiritual guidance to the team as always. And hopefully, this will just give you something to think about. Maybe you could just move your parish, one kernel ahead. But I think there's some really good questions here. So, Steve, I'll turn it back to you. And again, thank you, Steve, for your tremendous job tonight.
Sure. No, thank you, Steve. We got about a minute, and again, Your Eminence, thank you so much for staying on. I know how difficult it could be after the long trips, but let's open it up, Lisa. If there's one question, I know I can't wait to go through the chat. I'm sorry I haven't been able to stay, but it seems like just a lot of great dialogue. And Christina, thank you for answering, and Bill and others. And of course, we cannot forget Father Jim, who is on, who again, for many, many years, has planted those seeds also across our archdiocese. And thank you for always being and joining us here in the metropolis, Father Jim. Any questions? If anyone wants to ask one not final, but again, what I said at the very beginning, this is the beginning of a dialogue. We're going to give you resources. We're going to give you access information. Reach out to me, reach out to other members of the OPL team. We want to help your parishes. That is the purpose of our ministry. So, but tonight in only 75 minutes, we can only cover so much. So again, do not hesitate. I'll make sure we also include emails in that last slide of the OPL team members, or just making sure you have ways of contacting people.
If you can open it up, reset it.
So Paul, hey Paul,
close it.
normally I have to ask you to put others on mute, but maybe if you can go on mute too, Paul.
Steve, you got muted.
You got muted. You're a victim of your own device.
Paul, are you muted? Paul did
I'm
like
sorry,
Kevin.
Steve. I was going too quick.
There's that prankster Paul. Come on, Paul. It's late.
It is late. So no, as I had said, this is not the final question. This is the beginning of a dialogue. So I also want to extend my thanks to Christina and Katie. Though I know you've been on the receiving side of the 2x2 program. For me over the last week, it's been wonderful to hear your stories, to work with you, and thank you for sharing those stories. And Christina, have a wonderful week up at the ranch. Your Eminence, if you will bless us this evening before we...
I will be seeing Christina at the ranch. A great deal of wisdom and a great deal of challenges for all of us through this exercise that we have been doing on a regular basis. Thank you, Steve, and Steve, both of you. But thank you, all of you, for making space for something that's very, very crucially important for the life of the parishes and our faith in this country, and especially the life and your own personal growth. And I pray to God that that will continue to become our central message as a metropolis, to give to the people like yourselves opportunity to grow and reflect upon our own growth. It takes not a village, it takes not a community, it takes a great deal of courage to do what we are identified that we should do. And I thank you so much. And again, my last greeting for tonight, it is my brother from the other side of this country, Father Jim Cordaris, for being with us. Let us pray. Christ our God, we thank you for the fellowship we have shared this evening, for the wisdom exchange and for the renewed sense of purpose you have inspired in our hearts. Bless every parish represented here tonight. Strengthen the clergy and lay leaders and guide them in building parishes that are spiritually vibrant, welcoming, faithful and united. May the seeds planted this evening bear fruit in the days ahead for the glory of your holy name and the growth of your holy church. Give us courage to lead, with humility to listen, and a heart that seeks first your kingdom. For you are the great shepherd and guardian of our souls. And to you we give glory together with the eternal Father and your holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, none forever and to the ages of ages. Amen. Have a beautiful evening. May God bless you and may have a most fruitful, spiritually fruitful, and healthy physically summer. God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank
Your
you, Your
Eminence.
Eminence.
Thank you.